Happy Easter. I'm Charlie Sykes. Sunday Insight starts right now. Good morning and welcome to Sunday Insight. In the week that was, the Brewers get off to the fastest start in baseball. The state's unemployment rate dips below 6%. If you got up in the middle of the night, you saw something pretty dramatic this week, a dramatic blood moon. And there's another one in October, so mark your calendar. The Milwaukee County Zoo's baby gorilla dies less than a month after her birth. Governor Scott Walker launches his re-election campaign, and the world gets ready to celebrate Easter. But first, we start with this week's blockbuster story, the sale of the Milwaukee Bucks for an eye-popping $550 million. Civic leaders hailed the sale as a game-changer for the city, but some lingering questions remain. How firm is the commitment to keep the team in Milwaukee? Where will a new arena be located? And biggest of all, who will pay for the roughly $500 million facility? The new owners, billionaire hedge fund managers Mark Lazary and Wesley Edens, pledged $100 million for the project, an amount matched by Herb Kohl. But where will the other $300 million come from? Are the taxpayers going to be asked to pony up for the billionaires? Another possible wrinkle. One of the new owners, Lazary, had been tapped to be President Obama's ambassador to France last year, but his nomination was dropped after an FBI raid of an illegal poker ring in New York that was linked to the Russian mob. Sources said that Nazary's name was linked to the gambling ring, although he was never charged. Joining me on our panel this morning, the Milwaukee Community Journal's Michael Holt, former state representative Michelle Litchens, blogger Alex Runner, and political consultant Mary Jo Boss. So let's start with you, Alex. Were you surprised by the amount of money that the team was sold for?
I was. So I think Forbes magazine had said that the Milwaukee Bucks were maybe $405 million. And when you really look at it, it's not just $550 million, because the two $100 million investments, it's basically, you know, we're looking at $750 million worth. And I don't think people thought that the Bucks were worth that much.
Are they?
Well, they clearly are.
How solid is the commitment to keep them in town?
Well, that's a good question. You know, I was talking to some investment bankers I know, and they said that you look at Herb Kohl, he put whatever, $15 million in originally, now it's $18 million, now it's $550. They may be saying, here's a place we can put our money, and in 20 years it'll be worth $1 billion. But I hope that they're committed to Milwaukee. I'm optimistic that they are. Okay,
but then the question becomes, what are the politics about building a new arena? Are the taxpayers going to be asked to pay for an arena for the millionaires and billionaires who are running and playing for this team? I love saying millionaires and billionaires in this particular context, because we are talking about the fact that Herb Kohl, who was a millionaire, has now become richer than, even richer. He's even more fabulously rich. You have these stupendously rich billionaires coming in from New York. They just bought a team that is going to be staffed by millionaires. So what is the role of the taxpayers? Do taxpayers have an obligation to step up and buy them an arena to play in?
Well, I think it's way too early to even look at the taxpayers. You still have licensing fees, naming rights. You have maybe Marquette can kick in, the Admirals, not a whole lot, but there's some money there. You're bringing this number down to a deal where it's not uncommon in a city as big as Milwaukee for these packages to be put together. There may be some taxpayer money, but there's a lot of other avenues to explore before we hit the taxpayers.
Okay, Michael Holt.
Well, you know, I think that one of the conditions of Herb Kohl and sale was that the team remained in Milwaukee, and he's a strong supporter of keeping the team in Milwaukee. So I'm assuming the new owners will be as well. But I think
why would you assume that? They're not from around here.
Well, yeah, but if they made a promise to Herb Kohl, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, do you think it's in writing? Do you think because Herb Kohl turned around and said they're committed to staying here, but if we don't buy them a new arena, they're gone. So how firm is this commitment?
I think that was kind of like, well, it wasn't a veiled threat. It was an actual threat. And I think that is a circumstance. Unless you have a new arena, why would you keep the team here? I think Mark Murata came out last Friday and said something to the extent that over the next 10 years, we could end up putting $100 million into the maintenance of the current Bradley Center. So you need a new arena if you're going to really have a strong team.
Okay.
If you need a new arena to bring in the corporate income to pay for a $550 million basketball team, I don't see that happening anytime soon in Milwaukee. I think the Bucks are going to be finding a new city in the near future.
Well, see, again, keep in mind this guy is a poker player, and we don't know all the cards that he's holding. And I wonder, you know, there's been a lot of cheering about this, and it is great. This could be wonderful for the community. Anytime guys want to come in with private money, it is wonderful. But that sale price ought to send up some red flags there. because let's be honest about it, this franchise is worth more if it is portable, if it is movable. These guys have no loyalty to Milwaukee, and whatever the talk about the commitment, we haven't seen it in black and white what that commitment is and the obligation. Here's the other question. You know, you have to convince the public what's wrong with the Bradley Center. Why replace the Bradley Center? What is wrong with the Bradley Center?
Well, I think it's too small for one thing, and I think it's a similar problem to our convention center. You know, at the time it was built, it was fine, but these stadiums and convention centers have to be a lot bigger. And I think what you said is right. I mean, it's a huge vote of confidence for the city. Yeah. It's exciting news. We always say the private sector needs to take the lead. The private sector needs to take, well, here they are. And I think this is the game that's being played now, unfortunately.
But see, here's the problem with, you kind of dodged the question, because what's wrong with the Bradley Center is the NBA wants to make, you know, it's part of the corporatization of sports. They want more luxury suites. They want more culture. They want more higher end, high roller venues. That's the problem, is to convince the public, or public money, that they should be financing a stadium that has an arena that has maybe 100 of these corporate luxury suites, these corporate playgrounds, as opposed to, you know, and as opposed to 30. That's the problem of convincing the public that they should come in and subsidize the millionaires and billionaires. I hope it works out. I mean, I hope that the money is there, and I hope the team stays there. And I hope
Milwaukee if the Bucks leave and the arena closes down?
Okay, what happened to Seattle? They became the Super Bowl champs. What has your glass half full? What has your glass half empty? Let's go around the table. Michael Holt.
Well, since we're on the subject, my glass is half full because the Bucks' new ownership is supposedly committed to keeping the team in Milwaukee. But it's half empty because, as Charlie said, unless it's a new arena, that might not be possible.
Michelle Litchens.
It is half full because we have about 86 million people working in the private sector in this country. But it is half empty because workers are supporting about 147 million non-veteran government benefit takers, and that's not sustainable.
Alex Runner.
My glass is half full because Bruce Murphy at Urban Milwaukee has done some outstanding reporting unveiling the truth behind the Milwaukee Art Museum's proposed addition. My glass is half empty because there's clearly seems to be a lack of consistent vision for the project.
Mary Jo Boss.
My glass is half full because there are a number of great Republican candidates for the open Petri seat for Congress. My glass is half empty because only one can win.
Well, my glass is half full because a federal appeals court judge has once again upheld Act 10. It's half empty because the Blue Fisters will never admit that it's over. And it is. Next on Sunday Inside, Governor Walker kicks off his re-election campaign. Saying that Wisconsin was better off than it was 4 years ago, but that more work needs to be done, Scott Walker kicked off his re-election campaign last week. Now, you might remember that this will be his third campaign since 2010, having survived a 2012 recall. Polls show him with a small lead over Democrat Mary Burke. So let's take a look at the state of the race. What do you see as Walker's strengths and his weaknesses, Michelle Litchens?
I think the governor has proven that he said he was going to do what he did. Our state is moving in the right direction. Look at our unemployment numbers lately. I think Mary Burke is getting scared by some of the comments that she's making because people like the direction that we're going in and they want to continue to support Scott Walker. You know, the fact that she said she loves manufacturing, but she doesn't see that as a growth sector in Wisconsin really says that she's disconnected with the state because we're growing manufacturing jobs and Governor Walker is doing it.
Okay. Alex Runner.
Well, Mary Burke knows about 100 times more in manufacturing than Governor Walker does. She actually has real experience in that industry.
But most of it's in China.
No, most of it actually is in Europe. But, you know, I think, to be really honest, I think people talk about the enthusiasm gap. I look at the loyalty gap. I really do think that Governor Walker has this block of just fervent, almost religiously zealous supporters. One of my friends is a Walker supporter. He has a card. He has a Governor Walker supporter card. There's no one with a Mary Burke card. So she doesn't have that kind of loyalty, and definitely not from the unions, because she was the most conservative person on the Madison School Board, which may not be much. The unions ran someone against her. She's not a union person. She doesn't have that extreme support. I think that is her Achilles heel, is that she doesn't probably engender the kind of loyalty or fervence that he does.
Okay. Mary Jo Boss.
Well,
strengths and weaknesses.
His strengths are accomplishment and transparency. He said what he was going to do, and he did it. His weaknesses, I think, are his opponents' willingness to do just about anything. They will throw things out that may be completely absurd and untrue, but they're going to see what sticks. They will do anything they can to bring him down.
Okay, Michael Holt.
Well, I think the obvious weakness that's going to be brought up again and again and again is his promise of creating 250,000 jobs, which I thought from the onset was a really ambitious goal, to say the least. I think his tax cuts are going to help him. These new jobless numbers, figures are going to help him. But if you're right about Mary Burke, because I haven't seen her really get the traction I thought she would have, if you're right and she doesn't get union support, she may as well just walk away right now, because Scott Walker's a shoo-in.
I think the union supporters, they don't like Walker, so I think their angst, their anger against Walker is greater than their love for Mary Burke. So I think she will get them, but I think he has sort of the people love him on his side more than the left loves her.
And I think that the ad campaign that he started last week was kind of that, it's morning again in America vibe, from Ronald Reagan's era. So I think he's got a good, strong message. I do think that he's got some vulnerabilities. One of the vulnerabilities is this 2016 buzz. I do think that there is, the danger that people are going to think that he is looking past this election, that it might bring down some of the national money that might not normally be available here. I would have said a couple of months ago that, anytime you have a John Doe investigation, it's a net negative, but this John Doe investigation seems to have its wheels falling off on a daily basis. But I have to tell you, the fact that Mary Burke's campaign just seems to be stuck in neutral. She was one of those classic candidates, at least it seems to me at the moment, you can tell me if I'm wrong, where she looks really, really good on paper. They run her through the various focus groups, you check various boxes, and then you say, okay, this is the ideal candidate, but being a good candidate on paper, whose only experience has ever been to run for the Madison School Board, is not the same as being a real candidate in the real world running for governor.
Yeah, and then you have this traditional Democratic base, black folks. Yeah. She's angered a lot of black folks when she snubbed her nose at President Obama. Yeah. And now she's going on this tirade trying to kill school choice, and there's like 22,000 families involved in this. She needs to rethink her strategy. She needs to apologize to Obama and let him run her campaign. Yeah.
Well, I think Alex is right, though. I think the enthusiasm gap, and in an off-year election, that's crucial, because the turnout in this November will be different than the turnout in 2012. And if the only way for the Democrats to win is to get that kind of Obama enthusiasm turnout, and I just do not see that turning out for Mary Burke. Now, you may not want to hear it, but we're going to tell you anyway. Let's hand out some unsolicited advice. Michael Holt, as usual, you're first.
Well, a week or so ago, Mayor Tom Barrett and Chief Ed Flynn asked the governors to support their efforts to fight crime in Milwaukee. What I heard was a precursor to a necessary and needed conversation on how to abate civil liberties to get guns off the streets.
Michelle Litchens.
To Eric Holder, read the story of Peter and the Wolf, and you'll see when you cry race discrimination too often, no one believes you anymore.
Alex Runner.
My unsolicited advice is for all of us in the Milwaukee region to thoughtfully consider public investment in a new downtown arena. The private sector is clearly taking the lead, as we talked about, and some amount of public backing makes sense.
Mary Jo Boss.
My unsolicited advice is for Nicorette shareholder Senator Dick Durbin. Millions of smokers are using e-cigarettes to kick the tobacco habit. Before you try and ban e-cigarettes in the name of protecting the children, you may want to consider how many adult lives you're willing to sacrifice on the altar of your own economic self-interest.
Well, my unsolicited advice is for Milwaukee District Attorney John Chisholm. Look, you're tied up in federal and state courts. The taxpayer bill for defending you is skyrocketing. So it might be time to cut your losses, drop your John Doe pursuit of conservative activists, and get back to fighting crimes that actually exist. Now, coming up next on Sunday Insight, two big names in Wisconsin politics call it quits. Who's going to fill the void in the state Senate and the House of Representatives?
One of my colleagues for the House.
Very good. Think of it as Wisconsin's changing of the guard. Last week saw some unexpected retirements. Longtime Congressman Tom Petri stepping down after 35 years in office. State Senate President Mike Ellis calling it quits after forever. That set off a domino effect in state politics, with candidates scrambling for the open congressional seat, which potentially creates open Senate seats and even more open assembly seats. We could have an awful lot of new faces in office. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Does this throw in a certain amount of uncertainty into the political world? Mary Jo Boss?
I think it's a great thing. A lot of these candidates are in safe seats, but it's going to bring in some new faces, some fresh blood. A lot of times you have politicians are a product of their era, the Depression, Watergate, 9/11, that sort of thing. Now we have candidates coming in who are a product of the Act 10 era. And they're going to have fresh, bold ideas. They're going to want to get things done and make things happen. I think it's a great thing for the state of Wisconsin.
Do you see any of these retirements, though, as changing the balance of power in Congress or the state Senate?
I think it's terrible. I mean, Tom Petri.
What's terrible?
Well, the moderate Republicans are a dying breed. I think that's bad, and I think it goes back to what we were talking about before, that these extremes are dictating, the discussion, and you can't be a Republican, it seems, who's in favor of the Peace Corps, or these kind of like moderate.
Okay, seriously, no one's running against the Peace Corps. You just made that up.
But Tom Petri, he was a big advocate of the Peace Corps, and that was one of the criticisms of him. But anyway, I just think that these moderate Republicans, tell me if I'm wrong, moderate Republicans are a dying breed. Doesn't it seem that way?
What happened here, though, what's a dying breed is guys who have been there forever, been there because the ideal should have been the citizen legislator. And the problem with Tom Petri is not that he was a moderate, it was because he was a potted plant. He became the Republican Herb Kohl. When's the last time he led on anything? When's the last time he said anything that you remember? You have these guys that think these jobs are entitlements, and I think what's happened, you think it's terrible, I think it's great that we're getting fresh blood, that we have citizen legislators, that we're going to be giving new people with new ideas and new energy a shot at running for office.
Yeah, I agree, because I believe in term limits. Every year, my support for term limits increases. Yeah. But let's look at it across the board. Let's look at sensibility. Let's look at everybody. Anybody who's been in office for more than 10 years, are we getting any fresh ideas from them? I mean, I know what the Republican agenda is. I know what the Democratic agenda is, I think. And, we're just stuck on stupid.
Just to talk about moderates, I can't let that go unanswered because Chris Larson took out every Democrat that supported school choice in the Milwaukee area last year. So let's cover both sides. But I think this is fantastic, actually, that we are getting new candidates. We have excited people all over the state. And as Mary Jo said, these people were really inspired by Act 10 and what was able to be done in Wisconsin. They want to take that out to Washington, D.C.
This coming week, Senator Joe Lightbam is going to be jumping into the race for Congress. That opens up his Senate seat because he has to give up his Senate seat. Does that give Democrats a better chance of winning that seat?
No, that seat is pretty safe Republican.
I think you're probably right. Is what they said this week the same as what you heard? Let's go around the table. Michael Holt.
The state announced the unemployment rate dipped below 6% last week. Obviously, they didn't include Milwaukee Central City, where the black male unemployment rate hovers around 55%. That's 1 in 2 if you're counting or if you care.
Michelle Litchens.
Well, when talking about Wisconsin businesses, Mary Burke said, let's bring the costs down. I've done that at Trek. What I heard was Mary Burke bringing down her cost of business by exporting jobs to China.
Alex Runner.
Pope Francis said that he prefers a church that is bruised, hurting, and dirty because it has been out on the streets to one that is unhealthy from being confined and from clinging to its own security. What I heard was, we got a great pope.
Mary Jo Boss.
State Senator Mike Ellis said he doesn't fit in Madison anymore. What I heard is, if running my mouth in Madison bars is wrong, I don't want to be right.
Well, the Democrat candidate for Governor Mary Burke said that it was time to hit the panic button for the state economy the day before the unemployment rate dropped below 6%. What I heard was Democrat candidate for Mary Burke saying it's time to hit the panic button on my campaign. Coming up next on Sunday Insight, our panel picks the winners and losers of the week. First, here's your morning news update. It's time for our panel to pick the winners and losers of the week. Michael Holt, you're first.
I hate to burst the bubble of those families who used to think today is a dress up the kids and put on your favorite plastic leather shoes government holiday. By the way, going to church 1 week out of the year is not going to get you in heaven. Instead, be a winner by reading the Bible, finding out what the day is really about. And to those who know and follow the word, happy Easter.
Michelle Litchens.
The winner is Antarctic sea ice that continues to grow at an alarming rate. It is now 1.6 million square kilometers above average and continues to set new all-time daily records. The loser is Western Washington University President Bruce Shepard, who asked his students for suggestions to make their school less white over the next 10 years. For starters, Mr. Shepard, you could retire and require your replacement to be less white.
Alex Runner.
Well, I agree with Michael. He has risen, so definitely that's the main thing to think about. But my winner for the week is Herb Kohl and Milwaukee lovers everywhere, regardless of whether you like the NBA. What an investment in our city. My losers for the week are Milwaukee students, as MPS proficiency scores overall are way too low and choice school scores are even lower.
Mary Jo Boss.
My winner is also Herb Kohl. He could have made more money selling the team away from Milwaukee, and he didn't have any obligation to put up $100 million for a new arena. The city owes him a debt of gratitude. My loser is Mary Burke. One day after she suggests that it's time for Wisconsin to hit the economic panic button, new figures come out showing that under Governor Walker's leadership, the state created another 6,000 new jobs last month, and unemployment has dropped below 6% for the first time in over a decade.
Well, I guess there's a little consensus here. My winner is Herb Kohl, who bought a team for $18 million and sold it for $550 million. Now, if I were one of our liberal panelists here, I might call that an obscene profit. Since I'm not, I'll just say, well played. Loser, Michael Bloomberg, the billionaire former mayor of New York, who said that if there's a God, he's definitely going to heaven. Not even close, Bloomberg said. Like he knows what God wants even better than God himself. I doubt it. Thanks for joining us. Join me for my radio show on Monday morning on News Radio 620 WTMJ from 8:30 until noon. Have a happy and blessed Easter.